Hello and welcome to this section of the TI-89 Calculator Tutor. In this section we're going to learn how to begin to analyze our statistical data, and in this case we're going to be doing a histogram, which is a graph that sort of shows in a bar chart sort of way what your data is looking at. So it's basically going to be drawing a bar chart on the screen. So the first thing we need to realize, I'll just give you a little bit of a talk here, is that this is a calculator. It is not a full-blown computer. So it can do some really impressive things for a handheld device like plot this data, but don't expect you to don't expect yourself to have available every single statistical little option in there, and to have full flexibility over everything. So it does a good job, but certainly if you have very large data sets or very specific tweaking you want to do, I mean, a computer is really a better place to go. But certainly you can do the basics on this guy. So what we need to do to plot this histogram is to basically go first into the mode menu and make sure we're in function mode, which we are. Let's go ahead and quit that. Next, we need to go open our data. So go to data/matrix, and we want to open our data set, or we could create a new one, but since we've already created one, G for grades, we already did that a minute ago, so we'll open that up. And we see we'll have lots of grades here. Now, let's say that we want to add a few grades here, some outliers. So these are grades that, everybody else did pretty good, mostly A's and B's, some C's. But let's say there was the one kid in class that just did terrible. He's got a 52. So he's what we call an outlier. Everybody else in here, all 21 other kids, did more or less pretty good, within reason. And then there's the one kid that had the flu or wasn't there half the time. And so he's called an outlier, a statistical outlier. And the reason I added here is so that we can visualize what an outlier looks like in a histogram in this section. And in the next section, we're going to visualize this in terms of a box plot. And we'll talk about those later. So here's our data. Notice that once we're looking at our data, we have our data that we're interested in column 1, C1, and we notice up at the top we have plot setup. So in order to plot these guys, you need to go into plot setup from within the data matrix editor, because you need to tell the calculator what column you want to plot and what type of plot you want. So you would think you would do that stuff under the Y equals menu, but all of this stuff is so specific to statistics that they put that menu inside the data matrix editor. So go and open your data so that you're looking at it, and then you go to the plot setup from within the data matrix editor. All right, so we have a bunch of what we call these stat plots that we can generate. Plot 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. And so you can sort of think of this as the Y equals menu for statistical plots. So we want to define what plot 1 is going to look like. We need